Welcome everyone to the Kiosks and Kentucky Public Library session. My name is Lauren Abner and I'm the technology consultant at the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. And I'm here to just kick things off, introduce people, but we're very excited that we have 3 libraries today here to share their experiences with kiosks. We've got Dina Ratliff-Warren from Trimble County Public Library, Diane Brunson, who is the bookmobile driver and Sharpsburg outreach coordinator for Bath County Memorial Library. And then we've got Mark Adler, that guy from Bourbon County that we tolerate occasionally. Okay, and if you grab a copy of the slides, they're in folders. They're at the back of the room. Our contact information, our emails are listed on the second page. Also, in case we run out, or if you prefer just to have digital copies, the presentation slides are available in a Google Drive. You can go to tinyurl.com/kiosks in KY libraries because I misnamed it. I forgot the name of my own presentation. Good job. Okay, so I'm up here to briefly talk about eligibility to get funding for kiosks. I mean, the concepts can really differ if we're just talking in generalities, but the 3 libraries today are going to be sharing about getting E-rate or other federal funding to support their kiosks. And KDLA has a role in determining that, so we just briefly want to cover that before we get into all the great details of how you actually get a kiosk going. So KDLA is responsible for creating eligibility definitions for what a public library is, what an eligible bookmobile is, what a kiosk is. And if you grab a copy of the packets at the back, there is a printout of the public library determination spreadsheets from the KDLA website. So for eligible kiosks, of course, your library itself has to be eligible to receive federal funds from the Library Services Technology Act. Which, you've got paid trained staff, regular schedule, you're providing, free library services to people in the county, and of course your director is certified. So if you are, in fact, an eligible library, then with your kiosk, it needs to be run by an eligible library. It needs to be a point that's maintained somewhere outside of a normal library facility. And you provide some kind of access to resources, whether those are electronic or physical materials. You need some kind of access to resources. And it can be within another building. For example, if you've got an agreement with a city building, maybe you've just got some designated space inside the building. It could be a standalone structure. And it could also be something that is just temporary, because in some cases we have proof of concept branches and we're just trying it out. We don't know if we're going to maintain this, so it might just be that you try this concept, it's eligible while you're renting it, and then you may not continue it, so therefore it stops being eligible. Couple of provisos: if it's just a spot where you have internet access, Wi-Fi, that alone does not make a kiosk. It is key that you make some kind of library materials accessible, whether they can search the catalog, do web searches, get access to your databases or your catalog, or if you've got other materials available to folks. And also, if it's just a deposit collection where all you've got is a set of books there and that's it, and you're not really doing anything else to provide services, that is a deposit collection and not a kiosk. So why do these definitions matter? So you can get money. So LSTA funding. So KDLA's primary source of funding is federal funding from the Library Services and Technology Act, hereafter called LSTA. And that is really the only dedicated source of federal funding, and it is administered by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So KDLA gets various sources of funding through IMLS. Our LSTA funding that we receive each year, it's currently about $2.5 million per year. That is used to support a variety of services for public libraries. So it pays salaries of some folks like me, or the regional consultants, our CE folks. It helps pay for some of our circulating kits. large print collection, book kits, things like that. And then we also sometimes get funding that is going through the Institute of Museum and Library Services, but is a special one-time thing. So, pretty much every library receives some CARES funding a couple years ago to get some PPE, and now you guys are getting funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. So that flows through IMLS. So when we're talking about eligibility for that federal funding, we mean anything that flows through IMLS. And then there's the good old E-rate program. If you've had the misfortune of filing for E-rate, you probably know me really, really well, because there's just a lot to do. We get real personal with E-rate filing. But for the E-rate program, eligibility is really identical to being eligible for federal funding through LSTA. In fact, if you create a kiosk and you want to ask for services at that location, KDLA will have to provide a letter to say, well, yes, that kiosk location is eligible for E-rate discounts because it's eligible for LSTA. So the E-rate program, very briefly, can help you in a couple ways with major expenses for the kiosk. So as a public service outlet, it is eligible for Category 1 discount, which basically means your internet access. And then for Category 2, that involves pieces of networking equipment, maintenance for equipment, and sometimes managed services. But the big thing that we're focused on would be things like wireless access points, licenses for your access points, switches, firewall router, those kind of materials. So the discounts range in Kentucky from 50% to for Category 2, it tops out at 85%. But I mean, it can cover a really substantial portion of those expenses, so it's definitely something to consider. So just ending for me, just want to say, if you need more information on the E-rate program, I will talk your ear off, I promise. So you can reach out to me at lauren.abner@ky.gov or 502-564-1728. Glad to talk to you. Okay, so that's my portion. Now we're going to hand it over to Dina Ratliff-Warren. Okay, so you're just going to press that advance button.
Okay.
That's it. Got it.
Are you sure about
that? What just happened? Uh-oh. Okay.
So this isn't a good sign. I thought it was ironic that Lauren's asking me to speak about this, and I'm technologically challenged sometimes. So.
Oh wait, you know what? That's because I opened the wrong file.
That's all right. Go Lauren. Well, while she's figuring out files, let me just introduce myself. My name is Dina Ratliff-Warren. I am the director at Trimble County Public Library, and I've been there about 6 years. Trimble County is a small county in northern Kentucky. I have about 8,500 people in the county, and it's a great location, real close to Cincinnati and Louisville and LaGrange and other cities. So we have a lot of commuters going, out of our county to work, but a lot of people coming in as LG&E is located there too. So we got started around 2016. We started strategic planning, and something that came from that was we saw that there was a need for improved internet access and access to computers in our small community. And more importantly for us is that our stakeholders were also on board with the library, kind of being a leader in helping improve that access. So we kind of took that as permission to go ahead and try to get ideas. So we, as a team, as a staff, we started talking about ways that we could improve internet access in our community. We talked to leaders of organizations, government leaders, schools, and we also did a lot of researching and found that libraries are kind of the leaders in this area. We found that libraries were, had bookmobiles with a hotspot, and they would go to different locations offering this service. We also talked with Boone County Director Carrie Herman. She was working with their county, and they were helping to build a wide area network with fire stations in their county. They found that a lot of the population was centered around their firehouses, and so they worked with the county to build up that, boost the signals there and build it up. And then I don't remember how we got this idea, but I remember having conversations early on with Lauren about, can we just find a little place and put some computers and some internet there? It doesn't need to be big and complicated. This is what we need. And so some of the decisions that guided our, or factors that guided our decisions were, of course, with small rural libraries, it's cost. Can we afford this? Is it sustainable once we get it up? Can we keep it running with staff and technology? And the small digital branches was something that we felt that we could afford. Staffing, we can't afford to hire another person to man this position. We also wanted something that was, excuse me. We also wanted something that was really quick. We didn't want to wait 2 or 3 years to get this project running. We wanted something really up and running quickly. And we also wanted to make sure that the location that we selected would make the greatest impact. And of course, we wanted that consistency. We just didn't feel like we could get the consistency with the Bookmobile project. So we chose our our partner, which we already had a sort of a relationship with our Milton City commissioners. We had a book drop there and a little free library there, and we had a good working relationship with them already. So it just made sense, and it was the next largest city in our county. So we started planning. Okay, so let's figure out what we need to get this branch going. And Lauren was very instrumental in that, helping us to know what we needed to meet those requirements for the kiosk. We put 2 Dell computers, Intel Core i5 processors. We decided to put a printer there, and we don't charge anything for the copies, and that has come in handy for people. And then you have your internet equipment, your Meraki access points. We had a battery backup, our firewall. Firewall was also included in that. We use Untangled for our services. So those are a lot of those things can be paid for through E-rate or get it at a discounted rate. So you can see there's not a lot there, right? It's very simple. So the next step that we started on, and this, I think it's important to start this early because it really helps set parameters. We prepared a draft of a memorandum of understanding. You've got to have that in place before you can file for E-rate. So this memorandum of understanding, or MOU, it establishes the name and address and square footage of your location. It defines your responsibilities, like who's paying for what, who sets the policies, who's in charge when it breaks down, because computers do. And it establishes the terms of the partnership. So we started our MOU at, okay, let's try this for 3 years. Okay, that gives us a good enough time to market it, make sure that people know about it and can start using it. And then we decided that, and both parties decided that, so we don't have to worry about signing a new contract every 3 years, that it would just automatically roll over. And there was also a clause in there that if this was not a good idea, it wasn't working for either partnership, that we'd have like 30 to 60 days to terminate the contract and pull things out. So there was kind of that clause. Once we had these things in line, in our MOU and all of the technology and how much it's going to cost and budget, we presented it to our board, and our board was all in favor. We didn't have anybody that said, no, this is a horrible idea, especially after you tell them that, it's really only going to cost us 80% of the total costs after E-rate. So you're going to pitch your idea. So, and we've talked about this a little bit beforehand. You really need to make sure that you're establishing relationships beforehand. if you go to a fiscal court meeting or a commissioner's meeting and you're like, we want to build a kiosk, and they don't know you, that's, you're not going to get very far. I remember I went to several commissioners' meetings. I've gone to several fiscal court meetings, lots of them, and introduced myself. And I think something that they appreciated was, I'm Dina Riley. We have a really great library. It's awesome. It's beautiful, but we can do better. I feel like our services here in this community, we haven't done what we can. Help us to know what we can do better. And that really helped get my foot in the door. I'm not from Trimble County, and I know you guys who are working in small counties, that's a huge deal. Like being born and raised there and knowing people is a big deal. So getting your foot in the door is difficult at times. And during these relationship building meetings and things, we just informally talked about the idea of maybe having a kiosk. So when we finally pitched the idea, it was not a new idea for them. It was, we've already talked about it, we've discussed it, we kind of think it's a good idea. We planned on who would go to the meetings to pitch the idea, to sell it. Who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to bring as support? And then be prepared for any concerns that arise. The commissioners did have concerns about filtering. They had concerns about access, like is it going to be 24/7? Who gets to decide that? And that was all worked out with us, between us. You're going to finalize that agreement with your partnering organization. You'll finalize the timelines and expectations for the project. I thought it would go a lot quicker than it did. I was thinking 6 to 9 months, and I think it took over a year just because we had some E-rate issues. And then you're going to finalize that MOU and sign it and agree to the terms and conditions. So the next steps, after you get that MOU in place, you call Lauren excitedly and say, we are approved, let's go. And she's going to help you through the process of setting up your branch in the USAC portal. And going to help you file for E-rate, because that's what Lauren does. She's awesome at that. She knows that E-rate language. After you get all your funding in place and everything, you're going to, coordinate your installation and work with your IT companies. We outsource ours through Lib Synergy. James Williams, is that your last name? James is here. He's fairly new, so I'm getting to know him. He helped us. He's helping us maintain it right now, and he does a great job with that. And then you're going to market that branch. You're going to put up signage, and we just the city allowed us to use their posts, and we just put a little sign underneath there. It says Trimble County Public Library, Computer Lab, and Wi-Fi access. And so that was pretty easy. We market it on our social media, website, things like that. I will say that don't expect it to run people just running to it right away. It's going to take some time. And when you're I guess some things that we've learned is check in frequently with your partnering organizations to see if how it's doing, how is it working for them. If there are tech issues and they call, respond quickly to that. Don't let them, don't leave them hanging for a couple days. And then don't get discouraged if it doesn't take off right away. Just continue to talk about it. Word of mouth is probably one of the best ways you can market your little branch. And so would we do it again? We are doing it again. Our next location is Tri-County Community Action Agency, and we're hoping to get that up in July of 2022. Again, this was another partner that we already had a good working relationship with. We had already provided them with furniture to do some computers there, and we've been working with the fiscal court who owns the property to get Wi-Fi access there as well. So we're pretty excited about that project. I will say another thing that we did is to cut costs is all of our furniture, our printer, some of the computers that we're using are not brand new. There are things that we're moving from our, maybe our staff computer that's 3 or 4 years old. We're shifting to these digital branches, furniture that's a little bit outdated that we're no longer using. Our carrels that we had start out with 20 carrels, computer carrels, we cut that down to 10 because nobody's using our computers. We shifted that equipment to these branches to save money. So, did you want to save questions at the end, or do you want to?
You've got time to take a few questions.
Okay. But does anybody have any questions?
What kind of usage are you seeing?
Well, I haven't checked numbers recently. I should have. Thanks for calling me out on that. So when we first started, we were seeing just a little bit of computer use. The Wi-Fi usage was pretty significant. We did see a reduction in our usage at our main branch go down because people started going to that location. During the pandemic, though, our usage doubled. We actually had several high school students that were doing NTI at home who did not have access to a computer or internet at all, and they were able to finish their senior year through that digital branch. So, it's those kind of like feel-good things that you're like, okay, this is making a difference. That helped out. So, as far as numbers, I mean, you're not going to see these astronomical numbers that are like.
We've experimented with it a few years ago, and the Wi-Fi was the main usage, the main selling point.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing now. I will say that the city appreciates having those computers there. They use it for a lot of staff training. And they see a lot of people coming in to, the same things that you see in the libraries. They're, banking, insurance, Social Security, those things that are, our government requires us to communicate with them now through electronics. So, but is there anybody else? Yes.
So it's wired and it's not hotspots.
It is not hotspots, no. No.
What are their names?
Yes.
Were there any other agencies that you considered just trying to get some other ideas of places to put this?
Yes, we did. Churches came up because we saw that as a place of people going to frequently. Businesses were another. We have a medical center also in Milton. So we thought maybe that would be a good partner as well. We just looked at like high traffic areas. The municipal building just made sense. People go there to pay their water bill, and they had a meeting room that could accommodate the computer lab. So, and our square footage for our computer lab, we're talking, I think it's maybe 10 by 10 or 12 by 12. But I'm telling you guys, I was shocked at the amount of E-rate funding that approved us for. Just, it added about $5,000 per year to our E-rate budget. So that's $25,000 over the course of 5 years, your budget that you use. It's significant. So Trimble County is at a 80% discount rate for E-rate, and so that's huge. It's estimated that this new branch we just filed for E-rate, and bids came in about $20,000 for this project. So 80% of that project, I mean, that's significant savings. So, and we're not going to have to have a staff person there to run it. But this building is projected to open up in July, and it's been closed for the past 2 years. It really is there to serve our older population, and they've had it shut down due to COVID. And hopefully in July or August, when they open it back up, we can offer this service to them, and we can go in and do some other fun programs with our folks there. So, yes.
Let's shift over to Bath County just a second. And now welcome Diane Brunson from Bath County Memorial Library. Just a sec, I will get your slides up. Okay.
Well, while she's doing that, my name is Diane Brunson. I am the bookmobile librarian in Bath County. Thank you for having me. Originally, our director was supposed to be here, but something has come up, so I was sent in his place. So our design for our we call it our book stop. It is in Salt Lick, which is a small small city in one part of our county. It's a blue building, so it's very, as you're driving down the street, it's very eye-catching, easy to see. Michael kind of called it the Keep It Simple kiosk, and it was anything but simple. So some names that we called it. For me, I should say that Michael was kind of involved, and our facilities person were involved in kind of the planning of it, working with the city, the MOUs and E-rate and all that. And it would then fall to me to kind of maintain it. So being with the bookmobile, when as we get further in, you'll see some of the things. But so maintenance side and what I do after that falls to me. But the planning is really that was Michael. So Bath County, we're 45 minutes east of Lexington. We are right off I-64. Kind of a very rural county, large Amish population there. So yeah, Salt Lick, it's about 10 miles from Owingsville. We don't really get people from Salt Lick into the main branch of the library. It's just, like I said, it's a poor area. Gas, money for gas is definitely a concern. So that's where the bookmobile, I have a heavy presence out there. And if I didn't, those are people that would be missed by the physical branch of our library. Okay, there's just a little bit about what's coming in the slides. So they started talking about the kiosk project in 2018. COVID kind of did delay some things, but it is up and running as of the fall. We have the book stop, which is a combination little free library. We have a locker system where we can place actual library materials that people put on hold. We have a book return there. And then inside the city building, we actually have the internet service. We offer free Wi-Fi. There's a computer that I have just placed in the city building that people could actually go in and use. It is not quite functional yet. We are working on that. There is currently a laptop, though, an old laptop that people could use to at least place holds on materials. So we did a needs analysis. Like I said, we have a main branch kind of in the center of town. We have a branch library up in the northwestern part of the county, and the rest of the county had nothing. So we started doing our needs analysis of where to place our first kiosk. There were 4 other locations that we narrowed it down to, or 4 locations in general that we narrowed it down to. So looking at the population density, traffic patterns, public buildings, you know, where could we actually put something? And then we evaluated all the factors before deciding on our final location of Salt Lick. So that's, so the Salt Lick location. We included the kiosk in our strategic plan. We met with the city council in Salt Lick to kind of come up with a budget for what we needed. The library board signed on to it. So then the city council approved the fiat or the kiosk. We've got the MOU signed and created and signed by everyone. Michael, worked with Lauren on the E-rate, and then we were ready to build. So we wanted something that we could replicate in other parts of the county. We wanted something that would shelter a little free library system, like I said, locker system for library materials that could be placed, book return to return those library materials, internet service, and our access to our catalog. So the kiosk needed to be accessible. We need to protect the books, create the cover to protect also the lockers and everything in there. So they decided that a garden shed would be the great thing, and you can get them on Amazon. Bath County, we have a Save-A-Lot. We have a lot of Dollar General stores. That's all we have. So, there's no Lowe's in our county. There's no Home Depot. There's nothing like that. So we get a lot of stuff online. So they went to Amazon. They found this garden kiosk. They found lockers online. They thought this will be great. They watched a video. They're like, easy to put together. It was not. It was really not. The lockers came in and they looked at the lockers and they looked at the shed and they're like, they won't fit. The lockers are too tall. thankfully, we had a really great facilities person who's very handy. So the picture on the left, they had to build up the sides to make it taller. And then the picture on the right, that's actually the front doors where they had to add some metal to make the doors taller. It was not simple. So shelving, Michael is never one to turn down free shelving from other places, so we have lots and lots of shelving, extra shelving. We did have to go buy some brackets and some boards for the actual shelves, but we pretty much used a lot of what we had on hand already. So that's kind of a picture of the interior with the wooden shelving. It is a large, for a little free library, it is very large and it gets a lot of use. We were pretty surprised. Again, some of the things they're easy to buy at Lowe's. So those are our lockers. There is, we have no electricity to the kiosk itself. So had to go old school. So they found these lockers, again, on Amazon. They bought them. They're like, okay, we need some locks that we can reprogram between uses so that, one person has the combination. We don't want them to always know it. So they ordered the lockers. They ordered the combination locks. They came in. I said they don't fit. The locks, it's a little hard to tell in the picture, but it's recessed in there. So the locks that they bought were these big, heavy-duty things, and they just didn't fit. So we had to go back and buy some cheaper ones that have their own issues, but they are there. So we do take reserves, and I will stock the lockers when I see something come in. After I place it, I call the person. I say, hey, your item is in locker number whatever, here's the combination, and it's already checked out when it's in there. So we don't charge for overdue. So if it may take them a couple days to get there, that's fine. We just renew things, and I'm really flexible on the bookmobile with due dates anyway. So yeah, the problems, the initial locks didn't fit the lockers, and in cold weather, it's just really cold. The little cheapy ones that we have, when I was trying to redo the combo for a new person, it was cold. Our book return. So our facilities person saw this and they're like, this is great. It's, heavy duty parcel. It's, plastic. It can handle the outdoors. And he's like, yeah, if your hands are full, you just lift the top. You can put your items in there. When you close put the top back down, the items will fall to a secure place in the bottom. He's like, it'll be great. And it sort of is. Except for once it got put into the kiosk, the wooden shelves that we have for the little free library part, they kind of are on top of you can't really lift the top of the book return very easily without pushing the shelves back. So things are shifting, and the garden shed, the walls are they're not that sturdy. Inside the city building, they set aside a little room for us where they had a desk and some chairs. So right now we have a laptop that was just kind of in storage. The only thing you can get to is our OPAC, but you can log in, you can search, you can place holds. Like I said, I had just placed a machine that we pulled from our branch library that wasn't in use, and that'll hopefully give them some better internet access. But so yeah, problems were problems. The garden shed, again, it was too short. The shelving that's in there, stuff tends to fall off. There's no ends. There's also the brackets for the shelves are right in the middle, and the shelves are very long. So if you set something on one side, the shelves just kind of tip. Things fall. The original locks didn't fit the lockers. The shed, the screws are popping off. When I go by weekly, at least weekly, sometimes twice a week to check on it. And the mayor was there, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I had to put some of the screws back in because the roof was coming off. And so, yeah, and it is very dark. The doors, when you slide those doors on the garden shed, sometimes they have a tendency to come off their tracks, and it's not pretty. So when we added the original garden shed was green, and when they had to add the metal to make it, taller, they're like, we should paint this to make it all look, the same, so, eye-catching. So they did, and the paint doesn't stick to the garden shed. So it's peeling, it looks really bad. Up far away, it looks great. Up close, it looks really bad. But budgeting-wise, we did come in under $5,000. And like I said, the Wi-Fi is getting a lot of usage. The locker it's coming. It's slow. We've had a few. The little free library is very popular. So I'm restocking books. When we were shut down in 2020, we did a massive weeding project at our libraries. So we're using all those. We don't have a friends group, so any donations that we might get, if we can't add them to the collection, we tell people they would probably go out to the book stop, and people have been fine with that. So I am restocking almost weekly with books. And that is really it. So if anyone has any questions?
Yep, got time for one question for Bath County. Anybody?
Have you had any issues with humidity?
It does get wet in there because, like I said, it's water will come in from when it rains, like underneath. So if books fall on the ground, I kind of have to trash them. The humidity, as far as just the humidity for the books themselves, honestly, the ones that are on the shelves, the magazines that are out there, they've been fine. It's just if they fall to the ground and they're sitting there and it rains, those we've lost a few things. Not many though, not as many as I would have thought. And we have been fortunate. Even the mayor has said that he thought there might be some issues with vandalism. We've had nothing. It's been really good for us. So yes.
How many days a week are you stocking your kiosks?
So when I have my bookmobile routes, I will just stop and check on it and check the book return. But we have a planned stop once a week. That it's like when we have advertised we will be here on this day from this time to this time. People can come by if they need to get a library card. I can do that for them. But I can get inside the city building, show them how to use the computer that's out there. I've shown the mayor and some of the other city employees how to log in, and they've tested it out themselves, how to place holds and how to use the locker system. So they are also familiar with it and can help people if they should come when I'm not there. And we will mix up the days and times as we go along to kind of, somebody might not always be available on Thursdays from 12 to 1. So in the summer, we'll have different day, different hours to try to reach as many people as possible.
We need to move on to Bourbon County. Thank you, Diane. That's really cool. All right. And last but not least, Mark Adler from Bourbon County Public Library.
Wow, there's a lot of people in here. Lauren assured us that we would have a lot of people. Yes, my name is Mark Adler. I am the director at Bourbon County Library. I have been there for almost 20 years now. My 13-year-old and 10-year-old girls tell me that I'm older than dirt, and I think they're probably correct. One thing that is manifested with that affliction is that I am crotchety now. So I wanted to get this project going really, really quickly. And there is a backstory that I'll go over fairly quickly. But once we got started, we got implemented extremely quickly. And I think we're probably the newest kiosk or branch maybe in the state. We opened on March the 6th. So, okay, so why would we want a branch? I mean, we're a county of only about 20,000 people. And the community that we put the branch in only has 747 people in it. And the question is, why would we want to do that? KDLA in the past has historically said, you don't need to put branches in these smaller communities because you really need to focus your money at a targeted location. And when you spread it out like that, you can't offer the types of extensive services that communities need. KDLA, I think, is changing their tune now. Lauren is kind of maybe leading that charge with kiosks.
Terry.
We won't tell Terry and we won't tell Chris Bischoff. But, there's a lot of reasons to have a branch. One is, politics. I mean, we are under a lot of political pressure from our local government to continue to increase our services, the quality of the services and the breadth of the services that we're offering. Fortunately, we have a really good relationship with our elected officials, and it sounds like you do as well, Dina, and I know Michael works hard at that in Bath County too. Supporting those with transportation issues. We are a rural community as well. We do have close proximity to Lexington, but for people who are living around Millersburg, if they're in Millersburg, there's a large population of people who don't have transportation. And I say large, and out of 700 people, it's not significant maybe, but we also have a group of people who live and work on farms. And for them, going to town, going to Paris might happen once a week or once every 2 weeks because they're really dedicating their lives to working with livestock or working with, growing vegetables and other things. For me, it was a sense of equity in spending our tax dollars. We're taking in money from all over the community. People who own that property in those really rural areas are paying taxes to support a place that they're really not necessarily using much. And if we can provide something to them, then I think they're actually getting some return on their dollar, and I think it's a lot more fair. That's probably enough. Civic pride, I guess I will address. We put our branch in the old school building in Millersburg. The school was closed right around 2008, and it was devastating for the community. People were very angry about it, a lot of memories about the school, and the comment was, well, with the school, there's just nothing here anymore. And sure enough, Millersburg started to decline after the school was closed. Then they built a bypass around Millersburg that opened a couple of years ago, and Millersburg has just fallen almost into a ghost town because of that. And there are a lot of proud people there. There are a lot of people who really want their community to be successful. And there are some other agencies there. Community Ventures is a business that has been working there as well to really try and re-enliven Millersburg, and we thought we could play a part in that as well. So the timeline of how this all came about, I started in December of 2002, and my predecessor spent 1 hour with me before walking away saying, call me if you need me. Thankfully, I never called her. She was a wonderful supporter over the years. She just passed a couple of months ago, unfortunately. But she said the biggest thing you have to do is you have to expand your library. And so in 2002, there was a plan in place. We completely rewrote that plan. But it takes time to amass the funds, as many of you may know, to actually have a library project. So we spent 12 years doing that. We began our construction in 2014. And when we started the construction project, my comment to the library board was, we're building here in Paris. At some point, we were going to need to address the needs in other communities, including Millersburg and the North Middletowns or other significant town in the county. So we opened in 2016, and 6 years down the road, we actually are starting to do something. I was thinking about this last fall. I was the president of Kentucky Library Association in 2021, and one of the things I did in winter of 2021, I was working on one of the articles that I had to write, and actually it was 2020. My number's wrong, but anyway. One of the things I wrote about, I said, whatever you do it with heart, kindness, compassion, and certainly with the knowledge that by working together, we can and will embrace the positive future that we are daily dreaming. And that's what I was thinking about Millersburg in particular at that point. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do. In March of 2021, the executive director of the EDA contacted me. You guys don't know Gordon Wilson. If you knew him, he is a force to be reckoned with. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine, but he doesn't take no for an answer. And he said, what's it going to take to get a branch in Millersburg? It's like, oh, geez, Gordon, I don't know. Let's talk about it. And by talk about it with him, that meant next week we're going to get the president of Community Ventures, and we're going to get the mayor of Millersburg and all of these other people to the table, and we're going to have a meeting. So we had a meeting. And what came out of the meeting was, yeah, we can do this. And I gave him a timeline. I said the soonest that we could open would be January 1. We missed that date a little bit. COVID came into play with some of the players in this that slowed it down. So anyway, that was March 2021. April and May, the board set aside some exploration money to make this happen. Over the course of the summer, we worked on developing our MOU. Thank you, Dina. Your MOU seems to have been used by several of us. So we were able to rework that and get something in place very quickly. And in August, The library board voted unanimously in favor. The Millersburg City Council voted unanimously in favor. The MOU was signed and we started work. Then, of course, COVID hit. The mayor of Millersburg, who was our key person, was hit with COVID. He was hospitalized. His wife was hospitalized. And it really slowed down some things. Sadly, I don't have pictures, and I'm not keeping up with this, am I? Sadly, I don't have pictures of what the room looked like beforehand, but it was horrible. If you could have seen what that room looked like beforehand, you would be amazed. The city of Millersburg was wonderful. They agreed that they would fit the room out for us at their cost. They installed a new HVAC unit, they painted, they put in new carpeting, they're putting in windows, they're doing basically all of that for us at their cost. So they've got some skin in this game. They really, really do want it to work. The rest, of course, falls on us. So with the MOU, and I think I'll reiterate what Dina was saying, make sure you have really clear expectations in that. Make sure you have an out clause. We called ourselves a proof of concept branch. I also refer to us as a sandbox because it kind of is. We can reallocate space as needed. But we're proving a concept. If this doesn't work and it becomes unsustainable, we're going to walk away. And politically, that's not going to be very, very pleasing to the people who are involved. But it's just something, it's business. It's what we would have to do. So I continue to remind them of that and let them know that you have a vested interest in this. You have a responsibility for helping with PR and getting people in your community to come in and use this. Our branch is different in that it's staffed, and currently we're not open for very many hours a week, but we do have people that are in the branch, and because of that, we have a lot more sunk costs, and because of that, we really have to make sure that it gets appropriate usage. So anyway, we started implementing it. Lauren Abner, as Dina mentioned, was wonderful. James Williams, as Dina mentioned, from Lip Synergy was wonderful. He helped us get a bill of materials together for our E-rate application. He brought in a cabling specialist who would come and look at what kind of cabling we would need to have installed to get the building fitted out. And then we worked with Lauren to get all of the E-rate stuff out there. Sadly, because of the way E-rate cycles fall, we currently are operating in a very, very fragile way. We have wireless hotspots that are serving as our internet connection there right now, so it's very slow. It's a poor connection, and we wait. So we're not connected directly to our network. We can get to our ILS, but that's about all we can do. We can't see files on our staff server or anything like that, and we're waiting. Lauren assures me that on April 1st, we can apply for early purchasing, and all of the vendors have been told on April 1st, pull the trigger, get this stuff coming in immediately, because we want our high-speed connection. We want our connectivity to our servers. We want all of the services that people expect. I'm sorry. Working from 2 doesn't help here. So anyway, we've got a pretty good setup right now. We've got books in there. We've got about 1,500 books, which is not a lot. But all of the people in the community know that if they place a reserve on it, it will be delivered there for them. We're looking at a locker system very similar to what you're doing in Bath County. It would not be in the room itself. It would be out in the main school building. This is an old school building that we're in. That's probably coming this summer. We're implementing new things a little bit more slowly. We've asked the community what they would like. We've not heard back yet. I continue to tell them, ask really hard questions, ask for the world, because it's up to us to figure out how we can offer those things, or at least what we can offer. I hope that they really hit us with some hard questions. We closed one day for a staff in-service because of the way this works with our ILS. We didn't have branches before. So now we have a branch, and we have to deal with routing materials between branches and dealing with reserves between branches. And we had to have new code written for the ILS, and staff had to be trained. So we closed for a training day. And one of the things I mentioned to the staff was, you will probably have some patrons come in who appear to be very angry about, maybe it's not enough hours there, the hours aren't good for them, they can't get the materials that they want immediately. Those aren't problems. That's great. They're not really that angry. They're just telling you what they want. It's coming out as anger, but they're just saying, this is what I want. and then we find ways to handle it. It's not a problem. It's not rocket science. Our staff has been really good. They kind of smiled and shook their heads, or nodded their heads. I think they kind of get it. So you can see some of our technology stuff in there. We will have a 200 megabit connection dedicated up and down. One of the nice things that we do is offer cloud printing. We'll have a notary on site. Pretty much any service that you can get in our main library, you can get at least in some capacity at our branch. It'll be staffed by 2 people. The city building has some people there as well, so it's not just our 2 people in the building, but there'll be a staff of 2 people there at all times. So on March the 6th at 1 p.m., I had the great joy of standing in front of a bunch of people and saying, welcome to your Millersburg branch. And we had about 100 people show up. It was a rainy day. It was cold there, and I was extremely pleased. Elected officials showed up, members from the community, some of our patrons who live in Paris but were just curious showed up as well and supported us. And it was really nice. And one of the really cute things was I was in the room itself. You can see our ribbon cutting there, and you can see some pictures of the room. I was in the room itself, and one of the magistrates was talking to me, and he almost had tears in his eyes. He's about my age, and he said, "This is the room where I had my first grade." And he went through that whole school there before he went on to high school. And he also commented, "I hear kids in the background." He said, "You have no idea how nice it is to hear children's voices in this building again." So we have given Millersburg some pride back. We've given them something that's really important to them. We've reinvigorated them by reinstalling a part of their history, but in a different way so that it looks forward to the future. With the room itself, and I don't think any of these pictures show it really well. The picture on the left in the very back, you can see an old chalkboard. And when the city was redoing the room, they asked if we wanted to remove the chalkboards and the bulletin boards, and we're like, absolutely not. We want to keep that. We want this to still look like a little schoolroom, because that's what it was for this community. And the kids, of course, can draw on the chalkboard and have fun with it too. So it can be a lot of fun. For me, the biggest thing was in lessons that I've learned through this and things that we did, make sure you do have broad support from your local elected officials. We did. We're very fortunate. We did not run into any issues. We've heard only unanimity from them. In fact, so much so that one of the magistrates from the North Middletown, our other big community, has said, "When can we get one of these? We have a building that you can use as well." They have an old bank building, and the old teller station is still there. And that's like the perfect circulation point. So we're already thinking about that. I said it's going to be a year, 2 years, and he understands that. But they really see a model that might work for their community as well. Much like Millersburg, we would be able to use the space free of charge. We have no rent. We don't have utilities. We just get to be there, and it's really kind of nice. Bumps in the road like COVID, that was something that was unavoidable. Out of time, I'm told. So I will talk fast. ILS, that's the big thing. If you have to make any changes to your ILS, do it early. We waited until the last minute, and it really pushed our provider to rewrite code base for us. He got it done. We're trained. We're up and running, and that's that. So.
Thank you, everyone. As a reminder, if you didn't have, you can pass those out. Why don't you be a good boy and pass those out?
I'll be a good boy.
I'm sorry.
I don't have enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't have enough printed copies of the slides. You can go to tinyurl.com/kiosks in KY libraries and get a copy of all of the slides, the MOUs, the eligibility definitions. It's all there online for you. Thank you much.